Hey, welcome back to A-Aron Reacts, and we're doing more Angelina Jordan, young age of 12, and this is What Is Life, her original composition. And so, to be clear, I have not seen or heard your comments from the last reaction video I had done, and so if you had anything to that, in that one, I'll link to it here. You definitely want to check that out, where I did a little bit more in-depth analysis in terms of why this song should be award-winning and the complexity of the chord structure. And even the substitutions, the changes she made in that arrangement versus the one when she was age 12 with Dylan Meek and Ivan Mendes. And so definitely want to check that out. Now here, and I want to thank you again, PNFAR, for your contributions for buy me a coffee. I am doing kind of this mini series because of you, so thank you. And here I'm doing 2 rehearsals. They're listed on Dimly Lit at the age of 12. I assume that's probably pretty accurate, but they're both with this group, and I believe in preparation for the show, for the performance that leads up to It's Magic. And so I'm going to do that one next and the recording after that. So I'm not sure if those are the same. If they are, then, maybe I'll pull one of them. But that's the plan, as well as beyond that, there's another show or 2 at the age of 12, and then one at 13. So we still have a few more of these What Is Life. Now, I'm likely not going to dive more into kind of song analysis and chordal structure here. We've done that a lot with the first 2. If there's something worth pointing out, in other words, it's big enough or important enough, I probably will. But otherwise, we're going to stick to what I hear and so forth. So this one's probably going to be more straightforward reaction with the rehearsals than the other 2 and so forth. So let's dive in. And by the way, the 2 aren't labeled differently other than just the actual label from Mary, right? This one says rehearsing with the orchestra, where she composed and wrote the lyrics. And it does say on the Angelina Mosarz channel, Mary's channel, rehearsing the song she composed for the orchestra and wrote the lyrics. So I think that's where I noticed before when I said she composed it. Obviously, some of you told me as well, but I think that's where I had the idea that she did indeed compose it. Very different sound in this one. This sounds closer to the 12-year-old version in terms of her singing with Dylan Meek. So I think this is probably closer time frame, I'm guessing, to that other one. I noticed that before, but never said anything. I didn't want to detract from it, but that line, yeah, it really reminds me of, because they do a lot of back and forth, really reminds me of Jurassic Park, right? Anyway, that's what I heard. The first time I heard them doing that kind of echoing back and forth, it just really reminds me of it. Loving the bass center in this one. It really helps you feel that. Like my grandma, life is perhaps a tell it's the camcorder recording. It changes as she's walking, right? That was pretty tight, that transition. Sarah. Yeah, I'm really curious as we went through more in-depth analysis in the last one, if, for those of you that stuck around and listened to that, if you can hear some things differently now with this song. I'm really curious. Let me know in the comments. You know, do you hear it differently? Do you feel it differently? Or did I just lose you? Was it too much? Just let me know. Wow, that was quite extended. So that ending was just fantastic. So I think that was a little bit more extended than the one with Dylan Meek. The last rehearsal I did, I think, was even shorter. So yeah, I gotta listen to this again. My goodness. Dang. Am I wrong? Do I just remember incorrectly? I feel like it's a little bit, I mean, she did a lot of dancing on the Dylan Meek version. Obviously Ivan Mendes as well, but I think of it as Dylan Meek because I did many with Ivan Mendes and not with Dylan, right? Nothing to discredit Ivan Mendes. It's just, you know, Dylan's the unique factor there to me. Okay, so we're going to jump to the next one, but there's a couple things here. First of all, something that, you know, completely is likely, it's one of those things that I notice now, but is always there and maybe just never not noticed or thought of before. But I noticed that she had her shirt tucked in here and, you know, everybody else does too. So maybe she did it for them, or is it just me and she always did and I just never paid attention to it, right? Like, honestly, I don't know. But that is one thing I noticed. I love that we're seeing the different instruments as we move around and panning. I mean, for these rehearsals, I think that's so special. Obviously, it degrades the quality of the sound, but it's a rehearsal, right? It practice. And so Yeah, I mean, it's really special to have these moments on camera to be able to do that. And, you know, she's experimenting. The band's experimenting a little bit. You know, I imagine that this rehearsal will be slightly different as well. I don't know that I picked up on much that they changed arrangement-wise between the two. If anything, I think I was so mesmerized by her in all of them, to be honest with you. You know, you also see the guy in the back that, you know, he smiles at the camera and whatever. You know, I don't know what his role is, but my guess is he's, you know, involved in some form of sound or production or something to that effect, or stage, or maybe an assistant band director or something. I'm not quite sure who he is. Or maybe he's related with the Smile of Mary. I don't know. Anyway, we did see Sarah walking in. And in terms of her performance, you know, I think that, you know, the audio was better and worse at certain points. I do feel like this is a step up, and my guess tells me that this is accurate, that the other one was actually 11 and this is 12, so that she's developed a little bit further here from that other rehearsal. And my guess is that, you know, this, and you might have even left me comments in the Dylan Meek one in terms of timeline, guys, honestly. And my apologies. Maybe I'll add a note here if I find something there, but I don't recall off the top of my head if, you know, what the sequencing was, if you did or what. I get so many comments. It's tough to keep up, honestly, right? And I have a full-time job. I have kids. Like, any of this work I do is hard to get in. I'm not sure if you're all aware of that, but it's really hard to do this stuff because I just don't have time. But anyway, the whole point of all of that is my guess is these are relatively same time frame. And they're very different arrangements, of course. But, you know, they feel much the same. And so if I had to guess, the song originated with you know, Dylan and Ivan times, and they're putting together in a smaller format. And, you know, probably bouncing ideas off of Dylan and working together, and he probably contributed, but that's speculation. I don't know the full extent of that, right? But my guess is that guidance and coordinating with him being a prodigy as well and so forth, had an influence and impact on that, certainly in terms of the composition itself. All right, let's get to the next one. So I didn't eyeball every single individual member, so I don't know if it's the exact same group, but same pianist, same director. She's in the same place. So I assume this is pretty much the same group, if not everybody. Sometimes they substitute and so forth, but for the most part, it's probably the same group. Obviously, she has different attire. It's a different day. And the other thing I didn't mention as well in the other one that, you know, is worth mentioning is that she's barefoot in both. Those harmonies. So there you do see that guy actually on the sound mixer. So he clearly has something to do with sound, or at least that's part of his role. I'm remembering something I was going to comment before on last time for the last rehearsal, and I didn't. I just failed to mention it. But I love the flute, and I remembered at the end of the last one, especially the flute really gives it that feeling of lightness. What is life? It was almost like a extensive flute, or not extensive, but just almost a mini solo section, right? Where it was mostly the flute at the end, and we might hear the same here, and I'll point that out. But I'm hearing the flute here moving around quite a bit, and I'm reminded of that. So sorry, I just thought of it on the fly. Yeah, that trill.
Maybe life is wild and ways.
Maybe life is being documented for a documentary as you're walking through doing a rehearsal for an album you're about to produce at the age of 12, for a song that you composed and arranged for an orchestra, because you're frickin' modern day Mozart. Maybe that's what life is.
From someone say, or maybe life's just a memory. We come, we see, we go.
So we'll listen to the last 6 seconds just to make sure we don't miss something. But notice a couple things there. One, the silence, the just the room, and you see the pianist, you see the director, also showing the hands. Just let it fly, folks. Right? They all understand that, and it just sits there, and it's a beautiful reverberated sound. Watch the pianist here. His hand, and the band director too. Right? They understand that. The way she ended that, I believe, I'm not going to go and compare the two, but I believe it's essentially the same run that she did in the other rehearsal I had done as part of this. But the way she did it was very different, I believe. I believe the onset was different. She switched up. She did a little bit different. Like the humming as well was different. She, as is typical with Angelina, she did it. She made it her own, based on how she was feeling in the moment. But what's interesting is I don't think, which is, I believe, different from the Dylan Meek version, which is different from the first rehearsal I had done, that, I don't think that she changed up the run. Or if so, it was so subtle. Again, sometimes I hear things wrong or remember things wrong, so you can certainly validate that if you want, but, that's what I'm hearing and seeing. Look at the band director looking at Angelina now. This shot right here. There's direct eye contact saying, so, what'd you think? How was that? He's getting his cues from her. He knows who's the boss. He knows who's the boss. Right? Saying, okay, how we doing? Right? That's my take on that shot. Let's go ahead and get the ending, and then we'll finish listening to the last, I think it was 6 seconds I didn't listen to. So it was also a thank you. You know, it was also a thank you and a well done. You're amazing. But you know, I still believe it's a little bit of a confirmation. What is her body language? How is she reacting in this moment? Right? He's quickly glancing back at her. Obviously, it's typical. Okay, I want to say this. It's typical of a director to call out the star. If there's a vocalist, you know, they'll call them out. A lot of times they'll take a bow together, they'll shake hands. You know, if it's a large orchestra, it's often the first violinist and so forth, right? So it's not atypical at all for him to look at her, give her respect, even during a live performance. And so they might literally be rehearsing this here. So I could be completely overreading it. But my guess is, because it's not necessary for the performance or for the rehearsal here, my guess is he's literally looking for that feedback from her. He's literally trying to understand what is her initial reaction. Like, is she feeling good about it? Because he's conducting the band the whole time. He's not looking back at her. You see occasional glances, but for the most part, he's doing his job. So he's not getting that feedback from her during the rehearsal, right? So the moment he possibly can, he's checking back. Again, maybe I'm misinterpreting that or reading into it too much, but that's what I'm seeing and hearing. So another fantastic one. I can't wait for the live performance. So I think I'll leave this here. You know, thank you much. Subscribe to this channel. Go ahead and leave me a comment here on your thoughts. And consider joining us over at a-aronreacts.com/angels, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you.